Went into an adjacent room. The X-ray waiting room was a large room, and right in the middle of the room was Lyndon Johnson, and he was telling people to go talk on the phone, and he was obviously he'd set the government up, and he had taken control. And then I looked around, and I couldn't see a single person that I thought looked like Secret Service. I couldn't see any weapons that were protecting him, and so I was a little uncomfortable being there myself, because at that time we had no idea what was going on with our government. We didn't know if the government would be intact or not, but it made me feel good to know that he was right in the middle of the room, and he was the president. He was absolutely fearless. Then I wondered, why is he so absolutely fearless? I mean, because if it's a coup, he'd be the next one to go.
That's a very good question.
Dude, you got to hand it to this guy. That was brilliant. Brilliant.
But I love it. It's like, oh, good. He's there. Why is he there?
Why? How does he get this so quickly?
Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny because he's barking out orders. The guy's not even dead yet. And he's comforted by this, but then he thinks, holy crap, how is this guy in charge so quickly? And maybe he's the next to go. And how does he take over so quickly?
Mm-hmm. And it's that type of mental progression too, for real. Or you're just in there like, yeah. Wait a minute.
Well, he says an interesting thing, Curtis, who, by the way, I've never heard of in my life, except seeing his name in footnotes. And I realize why. First of all, he's alive. So I guess that's a plus. Second of all, he's not a doctor. He's a dentist. And the guy says to him, wait a minute, you're not even a doctor? And he goes, well, he goes, how did you get in there? He said, I was eating lunch and a cop said, are there any doctors in here? And he said, I'm a student, doctor, whatever I am, dentist. And he grabs him by the arm and he goes, get in there. And he gets thrown into the operating room. Kennedy, by his statement, is already dead, and he's kind of just trying to help out. You know, he does record mentally a lot of information, so that that was kind of cool. You know, the two shots from the front, and the one, the shot in the back. So he is privy to a lot of stuff because he's there. But one thing he says is Carrico and others were told never to talk about it among themselves by the Secret Service. And he indeed never talks about it, even eating lunch with the guy 1 million times. He's 26 when this happens. He eats lunch with the head doctors tons of times, and they never bring it up ever again. It was effective, Eric.
Well, it's also the mindset of the time. I mean, at that time, if you're told not to do something, you don't do it. I mean, it was, people believed in the government. They believed in the system. A lot of them are vets,
right.
Former soldiers. So
yeah,
I'm just saying the mentality is that.
Yeah. Think about the motivation for saying it, though. Why is the Secret Service if you're an average Secret Service guy, where are you getting this order to intimidate people and tell them not to talk about it? And we talked about this with Vince last week because of Elmer Moore, who is intimidating Dr. Malcolm Perry, who does the throat surgeon through the throat wound of the first shot through JFK's throat through the windshield from the overpass. And he's told, never to discuss this ever again. And he's intimidated by these guys. However, somebody sent Moore. Somebody sent him in that chain of command. Rowley was at the side of LBJ the entire weekend. Rowley himself, again, as James Rowley, the head of the Secret Service, did not come up with these things. He's a bureaucrat, Eric. He's not sitting there going, I have to tell everyone to never speak about this again. What's it to Rowley? What does he give a shit? The only guy who gives a crap is LBJ, who owns Rowley, who he's literally living in the Oval Office with LBJ for weeks. From what my research is now indicating, that Rowley and LBJ were overseeing the autopsy at Bethesda from the White House, having runners going back and forth. I did not know that.
Amazing. Well, you got to meet that Dr. Was it Dr. Murphy? And then a new favorite for you.
Oh, this chick.
Yeah,
Again, I was, I'm watching this thing, and Dan Hardaway, of course, Hardaway knows, because he issued the Lopez report, the Lopez Hardaway report, when they were staffers for the House Select Committee on Assassinations. They actually went to Mexico City. They wrote the report. They were stonewalled by the CIA. They were cock-blocked, if you want. They were manipulated by them. Hardaway still believes that Phillips and Angleton had nothing to do with the assassination. If you listen closely to Hardaway, he was an institutionalist who has never buckled about the involvement of Mexico City. The thing that Hardaway was laying down was this now new limited hangout. And I have to be emphatic about this because it's relatively new, that Oswald was being manipulated by the CIA and had no idea what was going on. And they were using him as a dangle, unbeknownst to Oswald, at the Mexico City embassy of the Cubans and the Soviets. They were using him. And this is the new moving of the goalposts, Hunley. And that's what Hardaway was talking about. That was his theory. And they were pushing this theory in that hearing. It was quite interesting to hear them push this, that he was in Mexico City, that he was obviously impostered. He was obviously phone called. However, he was part of the CIA's operation unbeknownst to him. So they get it both ways. The CIA doesn't want to be caught with their pants down, so they cover up this thing. And the fact that he killed the president is a mere coincidence, Eric. And I went, holy crap, that's an interesting new limited hangout, because the original hangout was Oswald did it alone. Then, like in the late 90s, it became Oswald and others. It became a conspiracy of him still doing the shooting. They will not back off of that because they're totally committed to him being one of the shooters. And with Mexico City, he was down there doing something. We're not really sure.
So now he's one of the Oswalds.
Yes, he's one. He's one of the Oswalds, which is kind of interesting. And then another thing was Tunheim, who was really the most eloquent, Judge Tunheim out of Minnesota, who ran the ARB, Session Record Review Board, ARRB. It was a judge, and he's now a retired or maybe still active federal judge. I think he's retired. He actually wrote to Joe Biden like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, to get some help on these records being released. And Biden, and he's a huge Democrat. This is a Democratic judge through and through. Biden didn't even write back to him or have someone send him a letter. Nothing. Didn't even get a response from the Biden administration.
Who said it got to Biden? I don't know if
no, he said, I wrote a letter to Biden. I assume a federal judge out of Minnesota, who is a lifetime federal judge, knows the correct way to write a letter to the president of his own party. That being said, there was no response. Right. Good point. But another thing,
if his cabinet officials couldn't even see him for over a year.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, he didn't know that, Tunheim, and he's still in denial about it, probably like the rest of the people. But Curtis, and then you had Doug Horn. But just sticking with Tunheim for a second, Tunheim had the most information. He had a prepared statement that was brilliant. He talked about the actual how the files were given, through the CIA, how they were distributed. And he also talked about the KGB files on Oswald, which are still over there in Moscow, that he says are like 5 stories high in terms of volume. And Luna, to her credit, said, we're in the process of trying to get those. I don't know what that means, but he said,
he also say he couldn't even get the embassy files?
They wouldn't even let him. This is unbelievable. I'm glad you said that. They wouldn't even let him and his staff into the United States Embassy to use it as an office, while they were there to deal with this stuff as visiting government officials. I mean, he talked about the roadblocks that were set up against the ARRB, and that was one of them. The State Department, who were authorized to help them, cock-blocked them every step of the way. He was trying to get the files, like I said, from Moscow. But one of the interesting things that slipped in there, which may not be, a lot of this stuff is not of interest to a lot of people. He wanted to get Walter Sheridan's files out of the Kennedy archives in Boston. And Sheridan, at the last minute, pulled his own files. So they couldn't get Walter Sheridan's files. Now, the people who follow this channel, Walter Sheridan was the arch nemesis of Jim Garrison. He was an investigator for the Kennedy clan. He was their dirty tricks operator, if you would, their Lee Atwater, if you would, for many years, serving all the Kennedys.
Oh, is he the one that helped with Chappaquiddick?
He helped with everything. He helped with the assassination. He helped with RFK. He was basically, his official position was as an investigator when RFK was Attorney General. He worked in the Attorney General's office as an official staff member of the Attorney General as an investigator. Then they go to get the files on JFK from the JFK library, where a lot of the personal files ended up. And Walter Sheridan takes them at the last minute. And what does he do with them? This is really interesting. Where can you hide the files of stuff of this nature? And this is an interesting take, because he has to put the files somewhere where they're untouchable. And this place has now become the repository of American intelligence and files that are untouchable, and that's NBC News. He gives the, yeah, no, you laugh, but this has become the new intellectual hideout for files of the intelligence operatives. There's JFK films there. There's the film that people are trying to get released of The Doorway that NBC News has. They won't release the original. And now we learn that Walter Sheridan's files on JFK are hidden in a private news corporation called NBC News. CBS has a lot of this going on too. CBS News was up to it with McCloy overseeing multiple documentaries on the assassination with Walter Cronkite when they were being made in the 90s. So these two news organizations, all three, ABC, have now become like government, quasi-government holding areas of documents that are being hidden from subpoena by the government. It's really,
let me guess, because they're giving it to them and it's private property now.
Yes.
That's a private organization.
Yes,
you can't force an organization to give it up to you.
Thank you. Exactly true. And it hit me like a ton of bricks for the first time because of the Walter Sheridan thing. The fact that Sheridan had the presence of mind to go to the library, yank out his stuff, and give it to NBC News shows you the complicity of NBC News. Like, what's it to them? You know what? You show up. I mean, Walter Sheridan was a producer at NBC News in one of his different hat-wearing things. He produced the insane white paper against Jim Garrison, the hatchet job that he did. Now, where is his boss, RFK, through this entire thing? You've got RFK who says, I support the Warren Commission. But then, you know, when he speaks at San Fernando Valley State College on March 31st, 1968, he said, only the powers of the presidency are going to allow me to reopen the investigation into my brother's murder. Okay, and then he's killed within 60 days. The reality of it is, he was a guy who signed the wiretaps, he being RFK, he signed the wiretaps on Martin Luther King. So you got to take a look at this guy from a new historical, I don't want to say revisionist, but a new set of eyes of what this guy's role was in the government, Eric.
Additional facts or nuance, I'd say. Not revisionist. So yeah.
Revision's the wrong word. Revision's the wrong word.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. It's enhancement. You know, it's like you get more information and you change. But I would love to. God, I wish Barnes was here to discuss this type of thing. I'd love to know if it can be possible to sue NBC, CBS, all of them to say that no, you don't have exclusive rights. These are people's documents. Technically, it's the government's documents. It's public documents, and these should be released. You should not have an exclusivity to them.
They're hiding them, and I think they have to be subpoenaed by Luna. NBC is already being subpoenaed over the film footage, which is something they've been sitting on. They've released copies of it. They don't. I understand their position is they don't want to give up the original. To who do you give the original to? For instance, they've made copies of it, and I think the original is not going to reveal much more in terms of the doorway of Billy Lovelady, and Fraser says he was standing in back of Lovelady, which is kind of interesting, but you don't see that in the copies that I've seen of the doorway shot. Now, just the thing about, finish up about Tunheim. Tunheim goes into a description of William Manchester's book, which we've talked about on this show on numerous occasions. And he says in that chapter in the book is a chapter on Jackie, and audio tapes, by the way, of her being interviewed by William Manchester, who's handpicked by the Kennedy clan to do the death of the president. He did the making of the president, and he's handpicked by Jackie and Robert Kennedy, again with Robert, to do the book on the death of the president. When they read the galleys, they have a heart attack because he has literally printed what she has said, and they go to court. They sue William Manchester in court, and the judge in the case seals the documents until 2067. And that's what Tunheim brought up yesterday, as did Doug Horn. And that, which I knew about, I just haven't heard about in a long time. And I've talked about it on this show before, Eric. In that chapter is something so valuable, so painful, so incredibly destructive that it had to be sealed until 2067. She passes away. Who ends up with it? Caroline Kennedy ends up with the legal connection to the court order because it's her daughter, and the son is dead, JFK Jr. She ends up with it. They approach her to have it released, asking very nicely, Judge Tunheim, a Democratic operative, all of them Democratic operatives, and federal judge said, we would like to see that information as part of the Assassinations Record Review Board. And she says no. And she said she's not going to do it. She's going to wait till 2067. And you have to think to yourself, what the fuck is so incredibly powerful in an interview, audio and print, of Jackie Kennedy that cannot be released, Eric, until 2067. And I will suggest to you again here on this show, it's the fact that she believes LBJ killed her husband. And she says that in the interviews, according to Manchester's son and to other people who have read them before they were sealed. And that what was so explosive to RFK when he saw it in print for the first time and heard it. And that's why the judge sealed it to 2067.
Well, and there's even more to me backing it up, because her idiot son is going off about these hearings.
Yeah. Oh, right. The Beschloss.
Yeah. So it's like, why? You don't care? It's your grandpa. You don't want to know what happened? You don't want to know?
Right. Well, yeah, I agree with you. But he doesn't have the gravitas of the former U.S. ambassador to Japan and major Democratic Party operative Caroline Kennedy. Okay. And she, I believe, and others, including RFK, believe that if this information got out about LBJ, it would destroy the party. He is revered and passed more legislation, created the Great Society, passed more socialist legislation than any Democrat, all Democrats combined, including FDR. Well, if you look at the sheer volume of bills, it surpasses FDR just in volume. And blah, blah, blah. The point of the matter is it would rip their party apart. And I mention this again because this is the second hearing in a row where Luna has not heard one word about LBJ. This is a Republican-controlled task force where they have not had one witness. And I'm no friend of Roger Stone, but to his credit, Roger Stone and others have written about LBJ's involvement, including Barr McClellan, who should be witnesses on this committee to make hay that, look, one of the major theories in this case, and we're not making this up, this is not a fringe theory, is LBJ was the mastermind of the assassination, aka the name of the book. I mean, I thought
they were going there with when Dr. Murphy was bringing it up. I was like, if somebody asked him a question, he was leading right into that when he was saying, why is he here? Why isn't he afraid? That's very weird.
Wait, you're talking about Curtis? Or
Dr. Curtis. Sorry.
No, that's what you're talking about. Yeah, Curtis. Yeah. Curtis, look, he's a doctor in the case and whatever. I mean, you could bring in, if you had Crenshaw, who could explain the phone call that he got from LBJ while, you know, he was at Parkland. I mean, you could have some real, I don't think Crenshaw's still alive, but if he was, I mean, you could have him explain this. But the fact of the matter is, this is a major wing of the conspiracy zeitgeist and the conspiracy research. There's entire books, theses, documentaries just about LBJ's involvement. Whether you get into the cover-up involving LBJ or not, you still have to touch it. You can't just ignore this thing. And yet somehow Luna has not touched this with a 10-foot pole. It's really astounding, and which leads into where you were going with this Alexis Coe, who I had no idea who she was. She wasn't introduced by Luna, saying this is a woman, blah, blah, blah. By the way, Luna's got to introduce these people. You can't just say, oh, now let's hear from you. Nobody knows who you are. I mean, it's so unprofessional. You know, give a bio. I mean, even a podcast host would do that, you know, let alone a committee chairwoman. Anyway, so all of a sudden this chick,
let's listen to her.
Go ahead.
Of course, JFK wasn't perfect. I've never studied a saint, and I haven't met one either. I see history's bold-faced names on their best days and on their worst. But complexity isn't a liability unless you're cherry-picking with an agenda. Yikes. Which brings me to today's hearing. The title uses charged words: obstruction, obfuscation, deception. But in the 132 days since the JFK assassination records were released, not even conspiracy theorists can claim that it upended the Warren Commission.
I think that points out her whole role.
Yeah, no. I mean, I was kind of shocked going, who the fuck is this? How did she get there? It turns out she's Alexis Coe. And you go, oh, Alexis Coe. You know, she wrote a children's book on George. I thought for a fact that she was a biographer of JFK. Her next book, Young Jack, Biography of JFK, will be published in 2025. This is a promotional event for her to be on this committee to promote this book that's not even out. She's written one stinking book, a children's book on George Washington, and then did a calendar, an actual calendar, showing side-by-side photos, humorously, quote unquote, of the founding fathers compared to birds, which bird they look like. This was a calendar she sells on her website for $15.
Hold on. She did go on a 13-month stop discussion tour about how a president should be.
Okay. Let me just explain who this woman is. This is a senior fellow at the New America Foundation, a far-left Brookings Institute think tank, Eric, that is extremely far-left. She's partners with a woman on a podcast and series named Doris Kearns Goodwin, who actually slept with LBJ. Okay, this is her partner. Her intellectual partner is Doris Kearns Goodwin, who told Legs McNeil, my roommate, that she indeed had to sleep with LBJ to get her first book made. So this is who this chick is. How she ended up on this committee, they're calling her the Democratic witness. In the committee, they're saying this is the Democratic witness, as if this is a bipartisan situation. I mean, bipartisan in a negative way. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. She has this sing-song Betty Boop voice. She has no parents. She was raised by her grandparents in LA, somehow has moved to Brooklyn and was running the research at the Brooklyn Public Library for God knows how. That, of course, went to one of the Ivy League schools and ended up in New York. But this book here, this is the only book she has. She has another book about a trans murder in 1892, about a woman who no, you can't make this up. An 1892 murder in Memphis by a trans a woman dressed as a man who's trying to marry another woman, who gets jilted by the love letters are found, and the father stops this marriage. And of course, she takes a razor and then kills her lover. That's another book. That's the only other book she has. So she's got this children's book and then this trans murder book from Memphis in 1892. However, that being said, How did she end up on this committee? She has no idea about JFK's assassination. She admits she doesn't know anything about it. She starts to talk about the John F. Kennedy Center, saying how it used to be bipartisan before Trump became president. Like, I swear to God, I almost fell off the fucking chair. And then she said, the new releases have released Social Security numbers. She said, never in my lifetime did I ever expect this to ever happen in this great country. Just an astounding piece of testimony. There should be a transcript made of this and put on the internet so everyone could read the transcript. They never go back to her again. One of the Democratic operatives, Garcia out of California, says his first question is for her. In other words, this was like a rehearsed setup. And then that was the end of her.
Well, it was just like the other guy who came in and again hammered the Social Security numbers.
Yes.
But you also wanted to bring up this that she brought up.
Yeah, she brought up the fact that in 1947, this is in her new book, JFK's election, which is a crock of shit to the Congress, was the American people speaking and going against Joseph McCarthy. And his election in 1947 turns the tide against McCarthyism because JFK was a statement, a blowback against Joe McCarthy and McCarthyism and the Red Scare. However, she reluctantly does not mention his head staff member was the campaign manager for JFK, his brother, Robert Francis Kennedy, here with Joseph McCarthy scheming to find commies under the beds of the American people, a righteous cause by both of these men. But her whole thesis was, stupidly, that Kennedy's election was to denounce Joe McCarthy, who was a friend of the Kennedy family, who marries a Kennedy daughter, for Christ's sakes. This is the historian they brought on yesterday, who absolutely knew nothing about history, who is featured on MSNBC, CNN, you know, the usual outlets for these Chinese fortune cookie pieces of history.
All the regulars. Now, okay, I couldn't listen to his opening statement. It just,
this was elder abuse, Eric. I mean, come on.
It wouldn't come through.
Whether it come through or not, he's so old, and you know, even when it was coming through at the end, did you wait till the end to hear it?
I kept moving and I couldn't hear it, and they had switched to I keep mixing up, I guess Curtis, not Murphy, but anyway, they switched to him, but then they went back to Bolden. But I was like, I'm listening because I don't watch these, I listen.
Yeah.
And it's just like a buzz. I kind of hear weird thing, and I looked at it and fast forward, it's like, okay, well, they could hear the audio, but I couldn't. So
well, he could barely speak. It wasn't even a question of the audio. It was the audio plus that. He was barely audible as a person. I mean, he's very old and he's very not in great health, and you know, didn't really bring much to the table there. But
yeah, I'm not trying to criticize him. I'm just saying I couldn't.
No, I just thought I am trying to criticize the handlers because I think it's elder abuse. I don't think you should take this guy and put him out there like that. I'm sorry. I mean, if it's good for Joe Biden, it's good for Abraham Bolden. It's a little much. It was a little much. I think his daughter comes into the frame at one time. She starts whispering something to, I think that's his lawyer, the white guy.
The son, his last remaining son, I think is.
Look, all you have to do is issue a written statement. That's all you have to do. Write whatever you want. Have somebody read it into the congressional record. You don't have to put on this Zoom, you know, bad technology part of the hearing. I get it that he'd like to do that, but if he has a message, I think the message is more important than the medium.
Or even fly somebody out there to record it ahead of time and clean
it doesn't matter. He's been interviewed. We've done the show on him. There's plenty of stuff. His book is out there. There's no more needed from Abraham Bolden. He's done his time. I mean, he served the American public. He's done a great cause. He was he's pardoned by, of course. I mean, leave the guy alone already. You know, I mean, if you can't even do this, look at his book. I mean, just put his book into the congressional record.
Yeah, no, that'll be good. So what else did you get out of it? I don't know. Do you feel like it's moving the ball?
I liked it. I was pleasantly surprised because Hardway and Tunheim had really good information. Stuff I didn't know about, just the physical details of how they were manipulated by the CIA. That was good. What their final theories are, I don't really care about that because that's just their personal theories. And, you know, same with Horn. I mean, Doug Horn had a lot of good stuff. You know, I don't agree with him on the Zapruder film, but that's a separate issue. He had a lot of good information to come to be presented there.
So the good thing about it is there were some things entered into the congressional record now
Yeah.
that are relevant, like the book that Caroline Kennedy has. Maybe that'll help pressure, or the NBC information. Maybe that'll help pressure and cause them to be subpoenaed.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. There was some good stuff there. And Luna's saying she's going to deal with the Russian officials now on the back of the peace talks to try to get the KGB files, you know, that are in Moscow. And right, you know, that would be great too. Not that there's Soviet involvement in this, but their take on it, which of course we all know their take was that the mastermind was LBJ. So I'd like to see that in translated into English. That's fascinating because they did a psychological analysis of LBJ. They did an analysis of the assassination from an outside viewpoint of who benefits, who gains, who did it, how it affects foreign policy. They've got a ton of shit over there. It's not just Oswald. It's just in the Oswald files, you know.
Well, and I'm sure that they had information here. They had sources here.
Yeah.
There was so much crap going on, fair play with Cuba and all that. Who's to say that they weren't watching all of that? And they probably knew who David Ferrie was. They didn't.
They were in Mexico City. You're right. They were in Mexico City. They were involved in this. I mean, keep in mind, he supposedly goes to the KGB assassin in the Soviet embassy in Mexico City. That's the storyline, that he was visiting the head of wet works or wet projects, assassination slang, at the Soviet embassy. That's our cock and bull story. I'd like to hear
pictures too. I bet.
Well, I'd like to hear
whoever visited them.
I'd like to hear their response to our political smear of them. You know, I mean, like, what is their response? What was their plan? You know, because I'm sure they realized they were being framed themselves as a country.
Well, what I'm wondering too is the same way we have that crazy ass photograph of somebody who's obviously not Oswald.
Yeah.
Maybe they have photographs of their own about the person who did visit. Maybe somebody did visit to try to set it up. And
you know, that's absolutely true. And that guy may be one of their guys just leaving work, which is what I always thought. I just thought it was some Russian guy going home for the day, you know, and they don't want to identify him because that would mean that they knew everybody who worked there or whatever their cock and bull story is. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of information I'd like to see out of Moscow.
Yep. All right. Well, I did not get to through all the hearing. Is there supposed to be another one or not?
She says yes. She says yes. Okay. I guess so. I don't know who's going to be there. I mean, if I was there with Roger Stone and whoever, and Barr McClellan, let's say it was the three of us, I would just talk about LBJ all day. Then I turn it over to Barr McClellan. I would make sure that the staff watched segments of Destiny Betrayed and try to get as much LBJ stuff on the record, and you know, bring on Roger Stone. He's very eloquent about it, and so is McClellan. I mean, I'd love the three of us to be on there talking about LBJ. It would be great if if Phil was still alive, but he's not. But that being said, between the three of us, we certainly know enough about LBJ to run a hearing.
Oh yeah.
It's got to be done. I mean, the avoidance of it is like a 600-pound gorilla at this point.
Well, yeah, I would like to see someone get called up and literally have it be part of their opening statement. So that way it gets in there on the record immediately.
Yeah.
And then it would be amusing if it was, and then they'd ask them about everything but that.
Right. You know, I mean, they would ask everything about it but that, but I'm sure there's some Republicans in it. And also I'd move them to the front row. This fact that they're sitting 30 rows back on camera.
So weird.
Totally. They have no idea theatrically how to run this fucking thing. Why are you sitting 30 rows back? Move up to the front so it looks like something. I mean,
and you put staffers behind you so it looks crowded.
Right,
you know,
right. Put up some photos of JFK's brain, for Christ's sakes. There's no sense of theater. There's no sense of TV presentation. It just makes it weaker. It makes the whole thing look less important. Eric and I showed you a clip from the church committee hearings a few weeks ago. Everybody packed into that room, up close and personal. You know, Angleton and Helms and Colby and everyone testifying 2 inches away from the panel with the senators. Now, maybe that's a senatorial hearing as opposed to a congressional one, but nevertheless, theater is theater.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it is just ridiculous. And what, did it get posted again? No, okay, they clipped it in the cut off. That's the other thing. The presentation on YouTube is like you have 50 minutes of "we'll be starting soon." Scroll. Well, it looks like they put it back up now, 486 views.
Okay.
When I looked earlier, I was like, okay, this is a very important big deal thing. I think it was 5,000 views. I'm like,
okay,
that's all you're getting? It's, you know, Congress, it's the biggest story.
Well, it's spread out. I mean, I looked at it on another C-SPAN. I mean, there's different places you can watch it.
All right.
But again, yeah, there's no central location.
All right. Well, just noteworthy that
yeah,
it's nowhere near the views and whatever. Just sad.
It is sad. I mean, and again, all credit and blame goes to Luna, who said, "I'm the head of this task force." You know, and her staff for not knowing how to run a hearing properly. I mean, you got to introduce the people. You got to say who they are. You got to put something below their name. You know, former Judge Tonheim. I mean, people don't know who these people are. I mean, this guy Curtis shows up. You don't know who he is. I mean, anyway, it is what it is. That being said, there's other news, so maybe we'll.
Yeah, I figured that I'll use that to pivot to the next story.
Yeah, cool.
Speaking of elder abuse, well, this because we did a show on Tuesday, it's not like we're jumping on the news right away here, but we had the big announcement from Joe Biden's crew. Coincidentally, her recording came out on Saturday. And Tuesday was the Tapper book. So Sunday, oh my God, we suddenly discover that as of Friday, they found out that Joe Biden had prostate cancer.
Yeah, I think in general, you're going to see everything because they're trying to get it behind them, everything right now. That's why none of these things are connected legally or financially, but they are connected media-wise related to the Democratic Central Universe. And I think that they're trying to they've made a decision with the Tapper release, as I talked about, to just get everything behind them, not full disclosure, but full court press on releasing whatever they're going to release, so they could say, we covered that months ago, we're moving on, blah, blah,
old
blah.
News.
And that's what's happening right now. This is the creation of old news by having this limited hangout about, now there's going to be other books, but the Tapper one really set the tone. And he's been making the rounds talking about it. I was watching Mark Halpern this morning discussing the fact that his colleagues will not acknowledge, no matter what, they're blaming the Biden staff for deceiving them about the medical condition of Joe Biden. And Halpern, to his credit, said, I mean, you've been caught red-handed in the biggest scandal in political history. At least own up to it and get it over with. He says they're doubling down, saying they don't know anything about it and blaming the Biden staff. I mean, it's insane, as Halpern rightfully said, Eric.
Well, I will give credit. If you want to see a thrashing, Megyn Kelly shredded Tapper. I mean, she went on and attacked him for 10 to 15 minutes.
Oh,
well. Continuously.
I'm sure
why did you do this?
Licking his millions of dollars of wounds in Martha's Vineyard, worried that Megyn Kelly was the only harsh person who tortured him.
No, I mean, at least somebody did.
Yeah,
at least there was somebody who got him on the record, and she was not half-assing, and it wasn't kind.
No, good for her. Good for her. I mean, look, this Anita Dunn story, I don't know if you know who this Anita Dunn woman is apparently a complete Maoist. I mean, how rare is it to find someone in the government who's a Maoist?
Yeah, isn't she the one who was hired and then kept shifting positions in the Biden administration?
I don't know about shifting
I think
positions,
Halpern brought her up.
She has referred to her two heroes on many occasions, Mother Teresa and Chairman Mao, and she goes into a whole long story of some speech she was giving on video, talking about she's quoting Chairman Mao on how to deal with things in your life, and like Mao said this, Mao said that, something out of 1968. Wow. It's just astonishing, but. The point of the story is apparently she was the one controlling the auto pen. A Chairman Mao worshiper apparently had access and control of the auto pen, and now everybody's suing her. Tom Fenton from Judicial Watch, the DOJ is going after her. I mean, there's all this different focus now on Neera Tanden for apparently having access and using the auto pen.
Interesting.
I know.
Well, I definitely I look forward to knowing more on that one.
Yeah, definitely. That's a late breaking story. Now, the Israeli shooter guy, which is really interesting, there's Elias Rodriguez, the crazed Mad Dog Mangione flavor of the week, who
celebrated by the
left immediately.
The Colombia people.
Absolutely.
Together, they're they love him like a Mangione.
Like a Mangione, yeah. They set up a GoFundMe page, and the weird parts of the story. There's a couple of weird parts of the story. Obviously, the woman who was killed obviously was going to marry this guy. They were about to be engaged, which is the tragic part of it. She met with Lee Zeldin the week before, the head of the EPA, and there's a photo Lee Zeldin put out of dealing with her. I don't know what the auspicious nature of the meeting was, but she was in there talking to Zeldin just last week, and she was obviously gunned down. She was crawling through the street, and he kept putting, I think, 17 bullets into them as they crawled, trying to escape. I mean, absolutely not covered by the mainstream media. That's why I'm saying it here. He went into the embassy acting as if this is the killer. There was trouble outside, and they embraced him, saying, "You're safe in here. You're safe in here." And he says, "You're right. I'm safe in here." And he starts screaming again, "Free Palestine!" Takes out the checkerboard thing, puts it on his head, and the Israeli officials in the embassy are now like completely spooked, going, "What the hell is this?" And then the police rush into the embassy and arrest him. But he tried to go into the embassy, I think, to find more victims. At that point, but he had fired 17 rounds. There may have been a large Glock clip that held 17, which
this is interesting. This is CNN trying to downplay it slightly. They're talking to a witness of it, and he holds his own pretty well. I don't know if you've seen this.
No, I haven't.
As you go forward with what you have seen, can you give us any sense, because you said you looked the shooter in the eyes, can you give us any sense of what you saw in him as he was sort of getting help and people were tending to him as if he too was a victim of seeing this?
Yeah, to be clear, I heard about that part because we were in a secure room when he initially walked in. I just saw him screaming and then being handcuffed. But what I saw in his eyes, I mean, I went to Columbia for grad school, and I saw the same thing in his eyes as I saw in the eyes of all the protesters at Columbia. Nothing different between him and them.
But
now
they
meltdown.
did not create this horrific shooting. They did not, they didn't shoot.
They gave permission. They gave the permission.
She's stunned. She doesn't know what to say.
They have called for intifada revolution.
Go to commercial. Go to commercial break.
Yelled last night.
Do you worry that there will be a conflation, though, of the two, those people who are speaking their mind, who really care about what is happening in Gaza, and those people who are like this person who did this horrific shooting, who intend to do harm?
A conflation. I mean, they are calling for intifada. At Columbia University, they call for intifada constantly. They're not quietly. They're loud. They're loud. You can hear it. They make recordings of themselves. So what's the difference?
Are you afraid?
I'm afraid.
Yes.
Okay. There is a video.
Everyone should be afraid.
There's a video
to try to make yourself feel safe.
All right, well, that's
Yeah,
why
yeah, no,
I thought that was really good to
there's a
demonstrate.
video of her, the victim, on CNN 8 years ago saying she's afraid to go to her high school and synagogue because of the hatred at her synagogue. And this is the victim 8 years ago. She's 17 years old in high school, and she said, I fear for my life. 8 years ago, now she's dead. I mean, how many more times does this have to happen in this country before somebody does something about this?
Jeez.
I mean, it's amazing. But really another plot twist is the father of the shooter was invited by a leftist Democratic congressman to be at the Trump congressional speech when Trump addressed Congress. The dad. This kid's a player. His family's involved in far left progressive politics, Eric. This is
almost like people appearing in commercials that try to kill Trump.
Yeah, it's shocking. Nothing to see here. The dad invited to the congressional address by the president of the United States. That's like Lee Harvey Oswald's dad going to LBJ's inauguration.
Wow. Wow, that's astounding.
Yeah. I mean, this thing's not over.
All right. Well, this is another story. I don't know if you've seen it or not. It's more of a localized news. And first off, I'm going to play the response from the individual involved, who, of course, goes by the pronouns, I believe, they, them.
Oh, boy.
All right.
Oh, boy.
The SEMA office is very small, and the majority of the time we work closer to business hours unless the need arises, such as what we're doing now, or special events. A lot of that work takes us out into the community. So we aren't necessarily in our office space at all times.
Right.
We do have a very small staff. I have received reports of people that did hear it. I've heard from a lot of people that said they haven't heard it. The SEMA office is very small.
All right. So you're like, well, who is this? What is this? Well, there was a tornado. So you see, it was obviously outside of office hours. So they don't have a tornado siren. Right. And without the siren, no biggie. 5 people killed, 38 injured, because hey, it's outside of business hours, Mark. Even her news conference is outside of business hours. Oh, thank you so much. After the people, died for showing up.
Okay. So, she had one job, and that was to push the button.
Exactly.
That was her one job.
That's exactly it.
Right. All right. I saw this. And we had the same thing here in LA when the fires happened. All of these different alarms were going off, not going off. And there's someone who's assigned that one job. That was that person's job to push the button, and they couldn't do it.
Yep. Anyway, that I just was like, it's so freaking sickening.
Well, when you stick to these urban democratic stories, there's the one in LA that I said that happened yesterday, which was one of the not being covered, of course, by the mainstream media. You're only going to hear this here. Story about Brian Williams, and not the NBC News Brian Williams. This is an African-American Brian Williams, who is the deputy mayor of public safety in Los Angeles. He's pled guilty now. The FBI arrested him. He's pled guilty. He's facing 10 years in federal penitentiary. He phoned in his own bomb threat because of the city's, according to him, the city's support of Israel, while he's in a Zoom meeting from his Google activation voice phone on Google, calls his own phone, his government phone. Here it is, Los Angeles, not former Los Angeles deputy mayor. He's former because he got arrested. That's why he's the former. Nice try. He calls in his own phone with a bomb scare to himself on his LA county phone, LA city phone. Then he calls the chief of police from the same phone, LAPD chief of police, tells him he's just received a bomb threat, repeats the verbiage. Here's a picture of this clown, right? This is a clown who, when Karen Bass went to Africa, he was supposed to be in charge of the city, but he'd already been arrested because he phoned in a bomb threat saying he's going to blow up City Hall, and his job was public safety, not unlike the situation with the St. Louis tornado. So the guy has now confessed. In other words, the electronics involved for the Justice Department was so easy to prove. It took them 5 seconds.
Well, of course, because all they had to do was trace and doesn't even take that long. They trace the number. The number's registered to Google. Hey,
Yeah.
Google, what account is that? It's knucklehead at gmail.com.
DeputyMayor.com.
Yeah, I mean, it was so freaking obvious. He probably was right under his name, didn't even bother.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And he pled guilty. I mean, this is, this is a 10-year mandatory, 10-year statute sentence as a max is 10 years federal prison. I mean, maybe he'll get 5. I think the federal sentence is going to be interesting as to see what he gets here. Because they are rounding up people so quickly here. The FBI went into Glendale yesterday, picked up 13 leaders of the Armenian gangs. And I don't mean kids. When I'm talking about the Armenian gang, I'm talking about mafiosa level crime of wire fraud, real estate fraud, bank fraud, stolen car, chop shops, drugs, everything. 13 of them in one swoop out of a house. And I've never seen so much criminal activity, anti-criminal activity in LA in 20 years. What's going on in the nightly news every night now with the Department of Homeland Security, ICE.
DA.
Okay. There's also a new prosecutor, Department of Justice prosecutor for LA. So this guy went into the men's house of detention and began to drag out criminals that were supposedly protected by LA City under the sanctuary city law that they passed 15-0 a few months ago. And he said in the press conference, when they dragged the guy out in handcuffs, there is no such thing as a sanctuary city. It's a myth. And he said, we have there, dude, it was unbelievable. The city's not responded. The city council's not responded. The entire phony house of cards of sanctuaryism has collapsed. It was a Maginot line of political chicanery. He said, we have people on the inside. We have the computer access. The second they bring in an illegal alien, we have all the information and we go in and get them. They filmed the entire thing of them bringing out one of the illegals that they got, and they took him to a ICE compound where he's going to be deported. And they're not going to stop.
Well, this is great. This is okay. This is what we've been talking about, because you were saying, when again arrest officials and all that. Well, you see what's happening. They're just going in, and as soon as the official comes up, then they can arrest them. But right now, it's like they just go pluck them right out. It's
what I'm saying is the cowardly officials didn't even do that. They didn't even respond saying, how dare you? Because they realized that the whole thing was a crock of shit. Now, Newsom is screaming his head off, but he's not going to block anybody from doing anything. He's just trying to make political hay out of it, because he's still licking his ass wounds from the United States Senate passing legislation taking away their electric car mandate for 2035. He can't believe what just happened to him. He's wearing his underwear on his head now to make sure he's got clean underwear. I mean, this guy his head is spinning so hard that he doesn't know what to say first at these press conferences. Eric.
And then the DOJ maybe looking into his train.
Yeah, what's his name? The Department of Transportation, Sean, what's his face, is going to look into Sean Murphy?
Murphy or Duffy?
Sean Duffy is looking into the fraud and abuse of the bullet train. Now, getting back to fraud and abuse, Rick Grinnell was on this morning on Two-Way with Dan and Mark, and he said that he uncovered massive abuse at the Kennedy Center, which she claimed is no longer bipartisan. And one of the craziest statements in the entire JFK Files hearing yesterday, that being Alexis Coe, he has uncovered fraud and not waste. He has turned this over to the FBI, Rick Grinnell, and he says, I am expecting prosecutions to come with the heads of the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. because of the fraud and money that was stolen. So this is another area that we're going to have something to live for if Kash Patel can get his head out of his ass and do something over there.
Yeah, I'm wondering, but now you sent me a two-way clip earlier.
Now the reason, just to set this up, this is Dan claiming that every single major Democratic official has finally denounced the shooting of the 2 Israeli embassy officials, the assassination, and it took a while, but now Dan is happy. Let's see what he says.
I think, as you said, Mark, it was encouraging throughout the day yesterday that more Democrats spoke up in clear terms. I know there's some criticism of kind of, certain words were used or not used, but, I was concerned when we did this yesterday morning, and by lunchtime, certain prominent Democrats were silent, especially a few that were given opportunities by the press to say something who passed. But
So Omar's spoken up?
I think they clearly realized that silence was not going to be an option, which I agree with. And so, to your point, better late than never. We can quiver over, whether it could have or should have been stronger. But I don't know of any prominent Democrat who is still silent, and that's a good direction for the party to be.
Oh, do you know any prominent Democrats?
I just know one. I just know one prominent Democrat that he left out, and that's Barack Hussein Obama, who has yet to issue a statement about the brutal assassination of 2 Israeli officials in the capital of the United States. Only one, and he happens to be the former president of the United States, the titular head of the Democratic Party, which apparently Dan was not privy to, that his own party chief has not issued a denouncement of the violence against these 2 people, nor has Michelle Obama, for that matter. But I don't care what she says. She wasn't the president. I mean, the fact that the last man standing.
Well, what about Ilhan Omar? I thought
she's even buckled. Even she buckled.
She did? Okay. Did AOC buckle?
They all buckled except for Barack Obama.
Okay.
Right, which he doesn't realize how stupid he just made himself. Wow. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay.
Also, getting back to this thing of these perp walks, we talked about it last week. They arrested 265, again, with this Department of Justice, and combined with the Sheriff's Department and LAPD, they rounded up 265 child predators in Southern California. This is an amazing story. In one day, 265 child predators arrested in Southern California crackdown. Okay, this is Operation Spring Cleaning, these lewd acts and everything, and they list everything else. The problem is, and this is, I don't trust the government for obvious reasons, and no one else does. There's no names, no perp walks, and no photos. And yet it just says 265. I mean, I'm sorry. I find this to be dubious, Eric. And
even Chris Hansen did better with NBC News.
Right. I mean, for the love of God, I'm sorry that I'm so cynical about this. And I hope that this is correct. But we went through this story 2 weeks ago where they're not showing.
Doesn't it in California, don't they have a bullshit law that you're not allowed to share mugshots online?
These are policies. These are recent policies. The Department of Justice under Biden. I traced it back when we did this story 2 weeks ago. And these are task forces here involving the feds. This is all because of their love of criminals. They did this, Eric, to avoid photos. This is not the law. This is just Biden era policy.
Well, far, Pam Bondi's been defending all the Biden policies.
Right, but I'm saying here's 265 people arrested. I mean, you want to blur out their faces, blur them out. They did that with the arrest at the men's house of detention of the illegal alien yesterday by the LA U.S. prosecutor. Blur their faces, but you got to show us something. I can't just read this headline and feel that 265 child predators have been removed from the streets.
No, I agree. Well, speaking of somebody who is removed, apparently they found whoever it was that spit on Ed Martin.
You want to explain this to me? What this woman's talking about? I mean, she's like yelling at him. You're a disgusting man. Then she brags about it on Twitter. I don't know if you want to play that. I guess you could play that.
So we need to get really focused. You are Martin. How you doing?
Look at this.
Okay, that's weird.
It's totally weird. I mean, who knows Ed Martin by sight?
She bragged about it.
No, she's bragging, and now she's been arrested by the Department of Justice. She's been charged. I don't know what the charges are. Assault with a liquid weapon.
No, spitting is an assault. I mean, what if she had a disease?
No, I agree.
Go spit on a cop, folks. See how it works.
But look at her thing. This was meant exactly in every bit. You're disgusting, pig-headed, swine-blooded, white privileged, racist. Who does she have the right guy? I mean, how does she know everything?
I don't know. That weird. She's a wacko. I mean, just obviously unhinged.
Okay, but wacko doesn't get you away from committing crimes. You could say anybody.
Oh, I know that. I
Yeah.
know. I'm saying,
Yeah.
look, I'm saying she's not only crazy, she's stupid. I mean,
Okay.
All right. She's bragging about it. Thank you very much for identifying yourself so we can then arrest you and take you off the street. That saves everybody a lot of time. That's super. All right, let's go ahead and jump stories. This is a story we've mentioned before. I know you have. And that's Jim Irsay.
Oh, Jim Irsay. Oh, Jesus Christ. Jim
Irsay,
I think he's been in more rehabs than any man I know. I've known Jim Irsay for a while. He should rest in peace because he never had peace in life. But basically an opiate addict. He loved pills and loved golf. Apparently, he loved the NFL. His father, who was the original owner of the Colts, as Baltimore Colt fans know, literally took the team and fled in the middle.
Okay.
His father, not him.
Okay.
His father literally took the team and fled Baltimore in the middle of the night without even saying goodbye. Just really a cold operation. Ends up in Indianapolis, and the kid works his way up the organization until his father dies, and he takes over. This is the Peyton Manning era, goes to 2007, the Super Bowl under Irsay's leadership. But like a lot of these billionaire types like Irsay, he begins to buy rock and roll and pop culture memorabilia, right? They all did this, but some of them have done this. Alan up in Seattle, a bunch of these wealthy guys do this a lot. Buys up Jimi Hendrix's guitar, and one of the things he buys is Jack Kerouac's scroll from On the Road, and he keeps taunting me with it in a friendly manner, saying, you got to come out to Indianapolis and see the scroll. And I'm going like, Jimmy, you think I'm going to come to fucking Indianapolis to see the scroll? Maybe you should put it in a museum and not have it in your living room. You know what I mean? And anyway, he'd laugh about this, and turns out that one night he nods out from opiates, and passes out for a long period of time. And his dog was so hungry, he had this little yappy dog. It starts eating the bottom of the scroll. This is something that is a prized national possession in literature, the actual scroll of On the Road, written nonstop by the legendary Jack Kerouac on one piece of paper, a scroll, where he typed out the entire novel in nonstop writing on a scroll. The dog started eating the bottom of it. And I said to him afterwards, I says, bro, you got to like donate this to a museum. So, we were jokingly talking last night in our little phone wake that we had for Jim Irsay that we have to get in a car and drive to Indianapolis to rescue the goddamn scroll before anybody else gets it. He has my dog ate my scroll. Yeah. I loved him, but he was a guy who could never really get sober and never really get straight, and had a ton of resources money-wise, and just a sad, sad story of Jim Irsay, to be frank with you.
Wow. Okay. So while we're on sad stories, let's go to the other death. And I did not know this is Jason Sudeikis's uncle.
Well, I don't know about that, but George Wendt was the opposite of Jim Irsay. He was a friendly, lovable lug of a guy with amazing talent and totally a hipster, unbeknownst to people who thought he was a straight guy, square. He wanted to rent my apartment in New York, but he had these 3 kids. He was on Broadway, and he came to my apartment in New York. He was living out here, and I still had my place in New York. So he came into my apartment, and he had 3 kids, and it was a 1-bedroom. And he was on in Hairspray playing Edna Turnblad. And I thought, who else but me knows 2 guys who played Edna Turnblad? Because John Pinette also passed away, and he had played Edna Turnblad on Broadway. And now George Wendt was playing, and they didn't even know each other. I was much closer to Pinette than I was to Wendt. But George Wendt, a lovable guy, completely heart of gold. Complete hipster, was into a lot of pop cultural oddities, worshipped the MC5 and had a great friend in Wayne Kramer, loved rock and roll, unbelievable fan of punk rock. And like I said, had these 3 kids. And I said, George, there's no room for him here. So he had to look for another apartment with multiple bedrooms, which wasn't mine. But yeah, just a great, great spirit. George went. He went on to do a lot of weird, different movies and parts in different things other than Cheers, is what I'm saying.
Well, and I mean, and even if he only had Cheers, that was an amazing role. He got 6 Emmy nominations, 6 years running.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was an anchor of the show. You know, a side character actor that is so important to that show is just amazing. I mean, I can't think of anybody who doesn't love the guy, you know, for at least that role.
Yeah.
All right. So while we're on other, I don't know if you say lovable guys, but somebody that we've talked about before, Scott Adams on Monday did announce that he has stage 4 prostate cancer. He was saying he may be checking out this summer. So it's really advanced.
Right.
But
Well, he says he's in total pain, Eric. I mean,
yeah, he said he has no good days on Monday. He said he has no good days. Now there's been some progression, and I want to update on it because it is good. This is about 3 minutes, but this is a really cool story.
Let's see this.
People were reaching out to him because of his announcement on Monday. So here's this story.
So yesterday I'm home, and I've been getting lots of people reaching out because of my recent health related news. And but I can't talk to everybody. Like it's just continual messages coming in, and I have to kind of pace myself. So I see a phone number coming in. Somebody's calling me from some number I don't recognize, something in Florida, and I sent it to voicemail. And a little bit later, I thought, I better check that voicemail and see if that was anything I need to deal with. And the first sentence in the transcription, because the phone gives you the text version of the voicemail as well. The first sentence is, "This is your favorite president."
Oh my God!
I thought to myself, no. Did I just send the most important person in the world to voicemail? And it turns out that I had. It was Trump.
Oh my God!
He was just calling to check in. Now he left a semi-lengthy little voicemail, just saying he was checking on me, heard about my health situation, and then he says, you can call me back on this number. Now, obviously, I don't call him back, right? Because that would just be ridiculous. It just was a nice thing for him to say, because he called me. You could call me back on this number.
That's funny.
So I didn't call him back on that number because I thought I'd, it's not like he's sitting at the Resolute desk waiting for my call. I thought that whatever it is he's doing has got to be more important than randomly taking a call from me. So I don't call him back. Hours go by. It's the afternoon, same day. It's the afternoon. And all of a sudden another call comes through, also from Florida. And I thought to myself, no fucking way. There's no way he's calling me again. And I answer it, and it's Trump. And apparently he'd heard of my situation, and he had lots of questions. I won't get into the details of our conversation because that would be inappropriate.
Wow.
But he was just checking on me, and he had, he wanted to make sure that I was getting everything I needed.
Wow.
And that was it. But at the end, the strangest thing happened at the end. At the end of the call, when he found out, the situation was kind of dire, and I was still checking out some things that might help. He said, "If you need anything, I'll make it happen." And he meant it.
Yeah. Wow.
He was completely aware of our, let's say, parallel journeys from 2015. He mentioned it. And it was just the most incredible, weird, hard to understand situation. But boy, was it fun. So anyway, that's my story.
Wow. What a story.
It is. That's why I wanted to play the whole thing, because it's relevant. And there's actually a follow-up on the story. I'm not going to play this full video, just like, the first minute, but I think this is directly related to that phone call.
Anyway, I'm going to give you a vague update on my health situation. Most of you are up to date. You know that I have a fatal form of cancer, prostate, that has metastasized to my bones. So in theory, if I didn't do anything, and it's sort of incurable, so there's not much you can do, I would be dead pretty soon. However, I have decided on a path of treatment that I'm not going to tell you about. Now, it has to do with real doctors. It's not going to be me grazing in my backyard and rubbing mud on myself like most of you are recommending. I'm not going to be taking ivermectin. I'm not going to be spending more time in the sun. I'm sure all those are good things, but I don't believe any of them would make me better. I think somebody would have noticed if you could cure incurable cancers with, just sort of minor diet changes and things like that. So the reason I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to do is because I know what the reaction would be. Somebody would tell me I'm crazy and, I should eat mud and do some damn thing. And so the goodwill that I experienced for the last several days, which has been really good, like unbelievably.
You can hear in his voice how much stronger his voice is.
Kind and generous. Started to turn today. So now the anti-vaxxers came out, and I knew that was going to happen. The anti-vaxxers came out, and they're asking, did you get the cancer after you got the vaccination?
Well, anyway,
notoriously, he has come out in the past, and I have footage of it where he said the anti-vaxxers were right. He said, I think in the argument they proved it, But he is getting a new treatment. His odds of survival have now jumped from 0% to 30%. So it's been a pretty good week. And I think that call from Trump might have been, maybe he said, hey, I'm looking into this. And then Trump might have made a call.
Well, there's another friend of his, a friend of the show's, who's very close to him, and that's Dr. Drew, who has prostate cancer himself. Yeah. So Dr. Drew has been living with prostate cancer. He had his prostate removed a number of years ago, and has been, whatever treatment Dr. Drew has been taking has allowed him to look incredible, act incredible, and live a full life without a prostate. Now, he had the surgery and had the prostate removed. I don't know if that's what he's referring to, but Drew, they're friends. So I think whatever he's hearing is probably from Drew and Associates as a reputable source. So he's in good hands there. Now, this guy, oddly enough, I've never met him, but he's from a small town called Windham, New York. And I used to live in Windham, New York when he was there. I used to run the ski shop, the Windham Mountain Ski Shop, in this tiny little town that apparently was where Scott Adams is from, up in the eastern Catskill Mountains, as what's known as the Italian Alps, as opposed to the Jewish Alps, which are in Sullivan County. These are in Greene County, a little bit to the east and north of the other Jewish Alps. But I always wanted to talk to him about Windham if we ever met, because I have a bunch of questions about Windham and some historical stuff. But, Godspeed. Just pray for Scott Adams if you can.
And I'm hoping, I think that's encouraging. I think his attitude is the most important thing. Like the day after, Monday, it was just like, oof, that was some rough things to watch. It was horribly rough to watch. And then Tuesday, he was like, hey, I've really gotten so much outpouring, I didn't even realize it. And he said, you know what, I'm going to try to stick around as much as I can. So Monday, it was so bleak. And then Tuesday, it was like the outpouring of support I think, perked him up to where he's like, he's going to fight it and go for it. Wednesday, he was feeling good enough, I think, where he was saying, hey, I kind of want to talk about other stuff too. So, I mean,
it's
that was a good
be up
sign.
and down. It's going to be a roller coaster.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a roller coaster. You can't judge us by 3 days. I mean, it's going to have bad days and good days. I remember Steve McQueen, when he got cancer, not just Steve McQueen, other people have done this too, went down to Mexico, just like what's his name did from Apple, to get Steve Jobs also to get these alternative medicines in Mexico. I don't know what the deal is in Mexico, but there's a lot of people go to Mexico for these Hail Mary treatments.
Well, Jobs went and he did multiple Hail Mary things. Not only that, but he had his Bolshevitarian diet. He did a lot of things. And hold on, Jobs is even more of a sad case because he had pancreatic cancer, and there's 2 kinds of pancreatic cancer. One that kills you, guaranteed death sentence, and then the one that Steve Jobs had, which is absolutely treatable, a minor surgery, very curable. He ignored it so long, then it finally, went to his liver.
Well, which gets you back to the Biden story. Like, how did this prostate cancer be ignored for so long, Eric?
Oh, supposedly he didn't have a PSA for 10 years.
How is that humanly possible? I get a PSA in the morning when I go to the post office.
Well, dude, it's a blood test. The thing is, it's like if you had any blood taken, they're looking at it. Come on.
Right. It's just part of the blood test. I mean, he's got the most amazing healthcare system in the world. I don't get it. I really don't get it, how it got this far.
Easy. It didn't, and they knew it, and they've been treating it. But somebody pointed out the fact, now, technically, if they know what kind it is, they can't say it'll respond to hormone therapy. But the other question would be, people brought up, even Cenk Uygur, that the hormone therapy for the prostate can cause a befuddlement and a mental side effects.
Oh my God, I didn't know that.
So there is a
wow, double-edged sword. Wow.
Yes, I forget, it's a hormone therapy, but one of it is like hot flashes, but also disorientation, memory, a lot of these things that we've seen him suffering. I think he probably had both problems, but I thought that was interesting. I wanted to acknowledge it. Speaking of interesting, how did you like what Trump did with the South African president?
Boy, that was entertaining. I mean, they didn't like it, but who cares what they like? I mean, the fact that this guy had to sit there and squirm and watch a documentary with Trump turning down the lights and putting on a documentary about the terroristic genocide that's happening in his own country. Wow, that was entertaining, Eric.
Well, I love the reaction, though. You could tell that they got the memo.
To the dramatic scene in the Oval Office today, the tense confrontation, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
Next, another Oval Office meltdown, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
President Trump is being accused of conducting something of a diplomatic ambush of South Africa's president in the Oval Office.
To be with you, I'm Katie Tur. President Trump orchestrated another Oval Office ambush today. Today, Donald Trump meeting with the president of South Africa and attempting to ambush and humiliate that leader.
Zelensky territory, where essentially he was a bit ambushed inside the Oval Office.
Felt like an ambush in there, kind of like the President Zelensky meeting in the Oval Office.
This was an ambush. It was orchestrated.
Cyril Ramaphosa brought his best diplomatic self to this meeting, but nothing could have prepared him for this multimedia ambush.
What started as, to some degree, an ambush.
Well, Katie, I mean, it was an ambush.
Ambush.
Ambushed. Ambush.
An ambush.
Ambushing.
Ambushed and ambushed inside the Oval Office.
Word of the day.
Yeah, well, they must have their talking points, going out early in the morning. I mean, why do they even need writers at these news shows? They're getting it either from the Brookings Institute or the New Freedom Foundation.
Right, they're getting a press release, and then they're all just going, and then
who writes that release? That's again, who controls the auto pen?
Well, remember, it goes all the way back. Yeah, it goes all the way back to 2016. Remember, Hillary Clinton and Scott Adams, I'm going to tie it together, talked about, remember the use of the word dark? Because it was during the Trump campaign, and all of a sudden it was like, Trump's message is dark, and Hillary Clinton's like, it's so dark, and it was dark. Right. And that was Robert Cialdini. According to Scott Adams, he believed it was Robert Cialdini, giving giving the counter narrative to Donald Trump.
Okay.
But, they've done
I don't know
before.
if you saw that video. Speaking of Democratic operatives, about Adam Schiff, where Kash Patel in this video says Adam Schiff is the worst criminal in Congress in 250 years in American history. And I'm going like, how is he now the head of the FBI and allowing this worst criminal in the history of the American politic body to run loose, especially in California, where it would be great if they could arrest Adam Schiff so doesn't destroy the state of California.
They've got something for Adam. They've got something. Our friend Nate, the lawyer, I haven't seen the video yet today, but he talked about it earlier today, has released a video on Adam Schiff. Well, it turns out that, like Letitia James, he has a bit of a real estate problem.
Yeah, in Virginia. He's got
Maryland.
Maryland, yeah.
He declared his residence in Maryland to his primary residence. Now, how the hell does that work when you are a senator and congressman for California?
I don't know.
It gets better. In 2011, he was actually censored by the House for doing it. And he said, oops, I had no idea. And then did it again and has continued to do it.
Well, what do you think is going to happen, if anything, with James Comey? This story's gone now. What was that about?
What
do you think?
I don't know if anything is actually going to happen. And the part of the problem is that there are so many cases of other people using the same terminology, like Jack Poso. I always forget how to say his name. Posobiec, yeah. Posobiec, was putting on 8646. And so when you have a whole litany of people using the term, and the same people who are criticizing, you give them a low-proof alcohol. Somebody's drunk, so you give them more alcohol.
Clever political. With these knuckleheads, if his wife really was a server, she would know the truth. 86 means you're out of it on the menu. Yes. 81 is water. 82 is ice water. There's a whole code of which I cover in the coffee shop episode that we did. Like I said, 81 is water. 82 is ice water. There's a bunch of stuff in the 80s, and it's all about hearing the order. And 86 means it's not on the menu. You're out of it.
Right. Yeah. Take it off the menu.
That's the origin of it. That's the origin of it in terms of coffee shop, restaurant language, coffee shop language. So his wife was a server in a place that didn't know the lingo of serving. But
somebody even rocked and they said, tell me about his wife's record. And they're like, there's no record sustaining that she was a server anywhere.
Of course not. It's completely insane. It's completely insane.
He's mocking everybody right there. It was so obvious. He's like,
well, I just got back from Hawaii yesterday. I liked the justice they did there. They had a bunch of bullies beating up a mentally disabled school kid. They were in school themselves, and they were savagely beating. These are Hawaiian kids. They were beating this disabled girl, and the bullies were arrested, but they were immediately released by the police. So the entire neighborhood went looking for them as a neighborhood of adults. And the video is the video.
I can't play the video,
but lower down, I think there's the video of the adults going to their homes to get them. I've never seen anything quite like this. This is the home video of them, the neighborhood parents and everyone involved of the victims going to the homes of the attackers to get them. And the police are now going to come up with charges. Community hunts down a bully who knocked down a special needs girl. It was multiple bullies, and the special needs girl was savagely beaten by them in that footage that Eric can't show. But here is the neighborhood itself taking the situation in hand, which I really, really liked. And
I like it too, and I hope that if the police do bullshit charge them, that same neighborhood practices something called jury nullification.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be on the jury or not, but the reality of it is, I've never seen activity like that before, and I just got back. The reason I mentioned it's a big story there when I was leaving, so I just thought I not as big a story as. It's a bigger story than the story what happened on Hollywood Boulevard yesterday with these black guys in a circle right where the the Walk of Stars is. I don't know if this was part of.
Oh, the ones that are singing around Kanye's star. Is that what happened?
No, not that at all. This was a group of shaved-headed, violent-looking black men in a circle just chanting Heil Hitler all day.
That was around Kanye or Ye's star, according to what I saw.
Whatever was going on, they were chanting Heil Hitler in a circle. I don't know if it was related to Kanye West or not. He wasn't there, so that's why I'm saying I don't know the connection to Kanye West.
No, it was his Hollywood star. Supposedly they were circling that and saying, "Oh, great," whatever.
I mean, but this is the same time when two young people are gunned down in Washington, D.C., literally feet from the FBI headquarters. These guys are chanting Heil Hitler in a circle on possibly the highest level of tourism foot traffic in California, which is right on Hollywood Boulevard where the Walk of Stars is.
Yeah, I think
it's unmolested. I mean, just no media, no police, no nothing. Just people shocked walking by. These like 25 black men chanting Heil Hitler.
What bothers me about it is because we kind of went back and forth a little bit on layback law today, and I brought up the fact, with these schools or whatever, I'm like, okay, let's say that there are some people who have a penchant, they want to have burning crosses outside. Is that okay?
I've said
is that going to apply?
No,
some white hoods and burning crosses. How's that going to go? So
change
argument there.
It's not an argument. Change kike to the N word, and it's over in 5 seconds.
Yeah, I mean
I'm sorry.
Just it's just despicable. But you know what? That depresses me. I want to cheer up. So super chats always make me happy.
Go for it, big guy.
Dick Dickerson gifted 10 America's Untold Stories memberships, which we do deeply appreciate, as always, Dick. And then Traffic. I'm not familiar with Traffic, but
it was a good English band with Steve Winwood and
well, I've heard of the band, yes.
Sure. Jim Capaldi, I think, was in it. Clapton for a while.
I'm sure that's
well, he was in Blind Faith. I don't think it was in Traffic, but Traffic kind of spun off into a supergroup. Oh, yeah, speaking of supergroups, our New Jersey correspondent Al Gonzalez has said that they have banned Springsteen cover bands around Asbury Park in protest. The club owner saying, "I'm not going to have piece of shit Springsteen cover bands anywhere near my nightclub." So the owner of one nightclub and others have banned cover bands of the former boss of rock and roll, Bruce Springsteen. The hatred for Springsteen in Asbury Park, according to Gonzalez, is now off the charts because of his woke behavior, support of Biden, support of anti-Trump causes. The entire state of New Jersey has now turned against Bruce Springsteen.
Good. I don't like the dude.
But the poor cover band, I mean, what did they do?
Well, they could be a parody. I mean, they could put lipstick on and say, "Look, we're the lesbians, Springsteen."
Right.
Or whatever, and mock it. Yeah. That'd be one way to do it.
Well, I think the point is that nobody was coming to the show is probably why he canceled them.
Oh,
nobody wanted to see a Springsteen cover band, let alone Springsteen himself.
I wouldn't want to see Springsteen himself.
But Trump was Trump mocking him with that golf swing versus Springsteen falling down on stage, Eric? Was that a True Social thing?
It was a mime. Yeah, it was a meme. Okay. It was a meme. Somebody put together, Trump shared it. Don't you love that the sitting president shares jokes like, I mean, it's like, come on. Never thought I'd see the day. But speaking of which, you know what? Not only do super chats make me happy, but coffee. Coffee makes me happy.
Right?
I definitely have to hit this every morning, by the way. And because of that, we have two great blends. We have the original blend, America's Untold Stories Supreme Breakfast Blend, and then the brand new Magic Bullet Blend. I'm still waiting to hear from people which one you like more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm leaning towards the Magic Bullet Blend. I like that best, but I'm back on the original right now. So I'm kind of changing out the bag, doing one, 1 week, another week or so, and just trying them both out. It's really awesome having two amazing coffees, both of which I drink without cream, without sugar, completely black. Never thought I'd do that, but I'm able to do it and enjoy it. Check it out. All the reviews have been fantastic on both of these. Especially the newer one doesn't have nearly as many reviews yet because it is new. And I'm hoping people will submit reviews, share it with their friends. But You could take a picture or use your phone and get the QR code in the middle, or you can check the link in the description. Absolutely. And it'll take you right there. Or for those who are listening, because I listen to YouTube, I know I'm weird. AmericasUntoldStories.com/coffee is where you can find that whenever you get home and you have time to go on your computer. AmericasUntoldStories.com/coffee. And I think you will really, truly enjoy it. Just like Pamela Clifton enjoys the show.
Wow, she's a big fan.
Yeah, she is. Happy Friday, guys. This is the last day of school in Texas. So I'm able to watch y'all, and I'll be listening when I have to drive. LOL.
Okay.
I hope you make it at JFK Lancer, Pamela. I don't know if you
She's
can.
down in Texas to begin with, so it could be helpful.
And because we're going there already, the 250-mile rule doesn't apply. If you happen to live in Dallas, well, we're already going.
Yeah,
there,
it doesn't apply because
we'll let you slide.
Yeah.
Let me see. We've got David J.B. saying the committee needs to sue to obtain the Joannides files. See,
I think they were doing that. They kept mentioning Joannides as it. Here's my take on this thing. This is just my general take. They seem to be embittered that Joannides hoodwinked them, and they want revenge. That's it. There's nothing special about Joe. In other words, he was sent in as the go-between between the CIA and the committee, and he faked them out. He was actually working for the CIA, came out of retirement, and was working for them. Okay. I think they're embittered about that. I don't know what the Joannides files would encompass other than him stalling or not giving them the files that they requested. You know what I mean? But it sounds like revenge is what they want. In other words,
and I also feel like it was just like listening to Jefferson Morley there, only he wasn't there. He might as well have been there.
I know.
Because Mexico, Joannides.
Yeah. Yeah, and they mentioned Morley in the storyline. In their interview, they mentioned Morley. I don't know if Doug Horn mentioned it or Tunheim, but they mentioned Morley regarding that. It sounds like they were hoodwinked by this guy and they want revenge. I am not personally that interested in Joannides. They kept poo-pooing David Atlee Phillips as if he was innocent. It's really weird. It's really weird. I mean, clearly Phillips has a lot more, as the head of the Western Hemisphere CIA, he has a lot more at stake and a lot more involvement than Joannides does. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's actually perfect. He can be like Ollie North. You know, the lowest ranking member who can carry the full weight.
Yeah. I mean, Phillips was above him in terms of rank. He was one of the highest ranking.
Yeah, he's second. I mean, reported directly to the director, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think they're just embittered that Joannides skunked them.
I guess so.
Because he gives an example about it where he said the Hardway his complaints were not recorded. Meaning he didn't make any complaints, but Hardway said, I complained vehemently to his face, and he used the word recorded because he didn't record my complaints, which is true, but it sounds like they have just bad blood and they want revenge.
Yeah, I have no doubt on that. K-Dog with $10, thank you. Great show again. Trump needs to make Tom Homan Attorney General.
I would take that in a second, but he's doing a great job at ICE, so let him finish the job he was hired to do. Unlike Judge Myung, I don't know if you know this judge, Myung Jo-on. Do you know Judge Myung Jo-on from South Korea?
Oh, that's the one who just blocked the
Department of Education being dismantled. He is the famous Judge Myung Jo-on, born and raised in South Korea. He now rules your nation. And tells the president of the United States, this guy born in South Korea, tells the president of the United States what he can and cannot do. And if you find this unacceptable, you're a racist.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's just one of many who...
right. No, but he was the latest. And also, no, there's a new one, some Biden chick, Obama woman who came out and put a stop on the Trump executive order against Harvard having foreign students.
That's the one that's the newest, I think.
That's the newest. This one is the day before. The newest one was the Harvard judge.
I have trouble keeping up, dude.
I'm telling you, at some point, you're going to have to shit or get off the pot, Eric. At what point is your government so paralyzed that you can't function? I mean, when is the last straw?
Well,
I don't understand how far this goes.
Well, we're waiting on one decision right now, which the Supreme Court just heard arguments, I think, last week. And it was 2 parts, which I thought was very weird. But one of the 2 parts was whether a district judge could freeze the entire damn country. So that is up there right now. So let's say that one, the Supreme Court rules, no, they can't. All these other ones fall.
Okay.
Potentially. So I'm saying that I think there could be some redress if that half goes through. I forgot the other half. It was another immigration case, but it was.
Well, I like how what's her name recused herself in the Catholic school voucher case, making it a 4-4 deadlock and reversing it to the lower courts. Yeah, she recused herself. Because she's Catholic, she had to recuse herself. Unlike Sotomayor, who's I assume a Puerto Rican Catholic, she had to get out to make it a 4-4 deadlock decision, thereby completely imprisoning these African-American kids in urban schools for the rest of their lives, because the teachers union has that much control over school vouchers. Now at the SCOTUS level, Amy Coney Barrett bailing out, ensuring a 4-4 deadlock, ensuring that these kids are now trapped for the rest of their lives in the worst schools in the country. Really, really outrageously gutless.
But don't worry, I'm sure her kids are all paid for.
Oh, they're all in private schools. Yeah, they're not going to have that problem. They're in Catholic school. Yeah.
Yep, of course.
By the way, did you see Charlie Kirk with this leprechaun at Oxford yesterday? Debating this. Oh, dude, I don't even know what this person was. I don't know. Maybe you could, if you have a little video, there's a little segment on Charlie Kirk debating at Oxford. And Charlie Kirk just cleans this guy's clock. It's probably about 45 seconds long, but I don't know what this creature is that he's debating, Eric.
Oh, I see. Hold on.
Take a look at that. Tell me what that is. And if you could play the video, it'd be wonderful for the audience, because he's jumping around like he's some sort of troll or leprechaun. And Charlie Kirk, to his credit, just, states his case.
Well, Charlie Kirk is very good. He had this one guy, and I actually interviewed the former head of the American Nazi Party to discuss it. And Charlie Kirk, very calmly was dealing with a guy who was just talking about every, I guess, blood libel, everything else. It was just bad. And when I talked to the American Nazi Party, he said it was all tied into this church, is tied into Nazis. And that's where it came from. But okay, let's see.
This is a format they have had at Oxford for many, many years, where you literally go face to face.
Sure.
Let me
So
ask
look at
you,
this. Look at the face.
conflict of Israel versus Hamas. Who's the good guy?
I believe both Hamas and the Israeli government are evil, but I think also that there is no justification. There is no justification for the murder and mutilation of thousands of innocent people and children. It's a futile.
Let's zero in on it.
There is no justification, Mr. Kerr, for
Look at him.
invading hospitals, for bombing innocent populations, and dragging out a war which is damaging Israel and the West.
He might have Tourette's.
He's got something, bro, because he looks like a
There's no
leprechaun
point, it's a moral truth.
on acid.
It was also a moral truth that the war started because 1,300 Jews were killed and 200 were taken hostage.
He reminds me of Ethan Klein of H3H3, who, when he's talking, he does that, and it's kind of a Tourette's thing.
And when you declare war on Israel, expect a firestorm in reaction. Let me finish. I let you talk. Israel, at its holiest day of the calendar year, besides Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, Samat Torah, the 50-year anniversary of the Six-Day War. On Shabbat, Hamas invaded Israel, deciding to go recklessly to music concerts, to homes, to kibbutzes, and taking 200 plus hostages. They knew what they were doing. In one of the most cloistered urban environments on the planet, 2 million people live in a place where it's impossible to wage war. Impossible. Where they wear civilian clothing, they violate every tenet of the Geneva Convention, and the IDF, when they do something right, they get no credit. When they do life-saving surgeries of a Gazan child, they get no credit. When they drop leaflets, they get no credit. But when they happen to bomb a place where they are operating their military from, which we now know from third-party verified sources, hundreds of Hamas military operations are in mosques, schools, and hospitals. I'm sorry, the country where they were living in relative peace on October 6th, that all of a sudden we had a war and Hamas started the war. And I don't see people that were really upset about the 2 million Germans that were killed in World War II, civilians. A tragic truth of war is that civilians die. I don't like it and you don't like it. And they brought it upon themselves. The only operation and entity to blame is the leadership of Hamas, not the Israeli government, for fighting this defensive war after they were invaded. There is a good guy and there is a bad guy. I honestly...
Isn't that the morality of a child?
Well, instead, well...
Look at this. Whoa.
It's interesting you say that, because a child who knows that Israel is the good guy and Hamas is bad has a lot more wisdom than a student like yourself at Cambridge University.
Hey, bravo. Charlie Kirk, way to go to take out the troll. Very nicely played, Charlie.
It's an odd, definitely an odd fellow. I do think.
Okay, he's an odd-looking fellow. He's an odd fellow.
So,
but he'll end up being the head of the BBC within 5 years.
Quite possibly. He's at Oxford. He's not going to be
right. I'm saying, yeah. You know, I was watching Douglas Murray and what's his face, Jordan Peterson, having a discussion on his show. I said on X, I said I'd much rather watch Jordan Peterson talking to Douglas Murray than Joe Rogan talking to Dave Smith about the same subject. I mean, the level of conversation was immensely higher with Peterson and Murray. It was just night and day. Just night and day.
Sure. I mean, and it's not, he's not a debate me bro guy.
Right. I mean, Murray was talking about this alliance of Islam with Marxism and how they've gotten together to attack the West, which is much more important to me than these other subjects. He was talking in a very big picture that nobody seems to be addressing right now. And Murray's been yelling about it way before the Dave Smith Rogan event, going back how many years, Eric, has Murray been talking about this subject?
Sure, and he's not alone. I mean, others have been discussing that exact thing. Yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping it's moving forward. I'm very distressed about the 2 diplomats getting killed, obviously, but I am hoping that overflow of violence is now putting into people's faces of, this is the result. This is what you're allowing. You know, just like that guy that I showed earlier talking to the CNN person. Yeah. She was stymied. She didn't know how to deal with it because it's like he witnessed it and he was at Columbia. He directly tied the 2 together. And I thought that was significant and it's hard to avoid. And I know Marcus told me on phone calls on the side because we talked about it. And he's like, what people don't get is at the end, we get killed. People get killed.
Eric is right. I've said this to him on the phone privately. I said, their free speech leads to our death. And nothing, this is weeks and weeks I've been saying this, and months, it goes back years. You know, my parents told me this, but again, that free speech leads to us being killed. And here it was again for the 10 millionth time. I mean, at some point, enough is enough already. I mean, is free speech that important that we have to die for someone else's free speech? I mean, you have to ask, well, you know, I'm a free speech absolutist. Good. You're not dying. We are. We are. I mean, it's fun that, or nice that you're, not you, I'm talking about the generic free speech absolutist. You're not getting killed. You're not getting shoved in ovens. You're not being, I mean, again, it's us.
Well, and I'll go further because I do believe in a lot of free speech, but I think that they can be prosecuted within the bounds of free speech. It's a threat, and a directed threat is not speech. So that's kind of
where we have to have aggressive prosecution, which they, again, getting back to these uber liberal school presidents who will not allow the police to deal with these people on the campus. This is the result of that. And they'll wash their hands of it, saying, we have nothing to do with people like Mangione, who was part of a group in Minnesota that was a far left activist anti-health insurance group that called for the death of executives from that company. And now Mangione, they can't all be nuts. In other words, they're not all crazy. This guy was part of a socialist movement. The guy who killed the Israelis, he was part of an extreme leftist communist socialist group aligned with BLM. His father was meeting with Democratic congressmen. These are not nutty people in the woods like what's his name, Ruth was, at the golf course, who seemed like a complete nutbag. Matthew Crooks did not seem that way. Ruth may have, but he ended up in Ukraine trying to buy Stinger missiles to shoot down Trump's planes. What difference does it make, to quote Hillary Clinton?
Yeah, I agree. And by the way, for my love of money, we have a Rumble rant from Alan, $100.
Alan agrees with us. He knows.
Yeah, he said, here is a rounding error, Eric. Thank you.
I get it. Now, speaking of rounding errors, this poll came out yesterday with a rounding error of 26.5% versus 24.8%, and that is the 2028 GOP presidential primary poll. Trump Jr. at 26.5% in the poll is the leading candidate for 2028. J.D. Vance is second at 24.8%. And for the first time, Don Jr. said he's not ruling it out. So that there's some breaking news last night about this that I brought to Eric's attention. Eric wants somebody who served in office before. I don't really care about that.
Well, I do care about the sense that they have an ability or time. Now, you could argue that Trump never served in office, but Trump has a lifetime, an extensive lifetime of business deals.
So does his kid. His kid's been running. Now you're really poo-pooing his career, Eric. I mean, the guy has a legitimate career.
Well, I'm not saying that he doesn't have a legitimate career. Hold on, I've got the wrong tab.
Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah.
Anyway, I'm not poo-pooing his career. I personally would like him to be a governor. I'd like him to be a senator. I wish he'd run for that right now.
I wish we had that luxury, but I wish a lot of things, but we're going to need a candidate.
Got a J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is not a bad choice.
Except he's losing in the poll is what I'm trying to point out.
He's got a name recognition on an early poll.
Yeah, so you say, okay. I believe, and I said this on the show, the reason I'm mentioning, I've said this on the show the past couple of years, that I could see Don Jr. being handed the torch by his father and campaigning with him. Now, if it doesn't work, I'm more than happy to have J.D. Vance. Don't get me wrong. But if Don Jr. decides to run, Katie barred the door because something's got to give here.
Yeah, I'm.
That's all. I was surprised to see that last night. That's why I sent it to you. I did not know these numbers until the poll just came out. So
well, I know, and you're a huge fan, but I'm a little over dynasties. We got the Bush, we got the Clintons. I don't need the Trump dynasty either. Let's.
I just want to win. I don't give a shit. If Vance was ahead, I'd be rooting for Vance. I don't care who it is. I just want to win. And if Donald Trump Jr. is the leading candidate, I'm throwing every fucking thing I have behind him. If it's Vance, same thing. Whoever the guy is, and I will, obviously campaign and talk him up. But I was surprised to see that number last night.
All right. Well, it's an early poll in a, pretty favorable thing, with the name. Oh, yeah, we love him. Well, what's better than, his name is Don Trump.
But that cuts both ways, Eric. To the simple, uneducated voter who is willing to vote for Don Jr. Because of his father, it makes it simpler.
I guess. I do care who runs the
I'm wasting my breath. What else you got over there? Wasting my time with.
All right. I've got more money. Sean Lucan gifted 10 memberships. So thank you very much. David B. I listened to Bolden's statement with closed captions on. He basically went into great detail about the abuse he suffered. I'm sorry to hear that.
No, but I'm saying, it didn't add anything to the JFK Files. I mean, most of that's in his book, and I don't begrudge the guy, but I'm saying it didn't really.
Well, it allowed him to get it to the world, so I that's cool that he got that chance. That's fine.
Well, it's better than having that nutty broad there. I mean, that was completely insane.
Yeah, the Wood Stroker saying, is there anything to the Loy Factor story as promulgated by Glenn Sample?
I mean, I've read it all. I never thought there was anything there.
Okay, there's so many come out of this.
Yeah, I mean, there's all these books. These people, and I have the book. I've read it. I don't. begrudge the guy for publishing it. I mean, but again, there's real research and there's abstract research. The Girl on the Stairs is a book that people should read because that's really interesting. But everyone is now focusing, for the most part, on the autopsy, and that's really something that you could really sink your teeth into.
That's worth focusing on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nick Giusti, Charlie Kirk dismantling college kids is hilarious until you realize they are the future of our country. Even sadder, they're spending tens of thousands of dollars and not learning a damn thing.
Well, how old is Charlie Kirk? It's not like he's much older than a college kid. I mean,
he's 33 now or 34.
Okay.
So he's gotten up there a bit. But the same thing with Ben Shapiro would go around and, and
there is
college kids are always stupid.
There's a circuit, to go on. I mean, there's a college circuit. I mean, they're going to be there.
Well, and at least Charlie Kirk is able to talk. I mean, Ben Shapiro, Milo Yiannopoulos famously were blocked. Michael Knowles, I think he was attacked. They have to have expensive security.
Jerry Seinfeld and what's his name? Couldn't even talk to comics.
They won't perform at colleges.
Right?
No, I know.
Because they were heckled and blocked.
Yeah, so
it's not just political people; it's comics too.
Well, it's getting better though, because like I said, at least Charlie Kirk is at the college and able to do this. Steven Crowder is able to sit there with the table and change my mind. So he
really hated England. He said he said it was dark, it was depressing, it was sad.
Who did?
Charlie Kirk, when he got back, he just said it was disgusting over there.
Oh well,
he was no fan of England.
I have friends over in England, and they're saying it's getting just awful. It's getting awful. Nick Juice, he's saying, Eric, you can censor it, but the Supreme Court better, I think he's saying not F us. They make me nervous as heck. Trump should steamroll them into submission if necessary. Appreciate guys. Great show as always.
The question is when? I mean, do you just keep getting more? At some point, I'm way past the point, but I'm saying at some point, rational people are going to say enough is enough. I'm just wondering when that happens. Like Eric is pointing out, there's one case. I don't think that case is going to go the way that Trump wants it. So again, how many cases is enough? I don't know the answer to that. I really don't.
Yeah, well, I don't, like I said, that one, if he gets a ruling saying that a circuit judge can't just block for the whole country outside their circuit, that would be huge. That would be a major progress because it would unravel a lot of the other blocks that they're doing right now. Well, we'll see. I don't know if it'll happen, but let's hope. Fletcher Boy is saying the Democrats will run Newsom/Karen Bass in 2028.
That's not going to happen, bro.
I doubt that. I don't think they can stand being either show.
Yeah, that's not. It's a ticket that doesn't help anybody.
Yeah, and it'll be
like Newsom's going to Newsom will pick whoever he wants, but I mean, he has got to be the leading horse at this time out of the gate. He is doing this full time. He's got a war chest the size of Brazil. He's got Democratic connections, and he's not old. So go figure. He's a leftist trying to move towards the middle.
That's true. Somebody's trying to pick a fight with you, Mark. Emerson Rocket Softball saying your Dodgers suck.
Please, I can't talk about it right now because the game. I'm saying I'm TiVoing the game, so I don't want to hear about the Dodgers and Mets. I told Al Gonzalez was texting me this morning saying he's watching the game, which is getting underway at Citi Field. So I don't put up anything about the game because I'm TiVoing the game. Dodgers big series with the Mets this weekend. Everybody's talking about it.
I see.
Yeah,
I
just don't want any score. I don't want any scores.
No, that wasn't a score. Okay, I will not put it up if there's a score. But if you trash the team and say they're garbage or something, yeah, that's fair game. Okay. You're paying to play.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I don't care about that.
So
I don't care about it. There's a lot to that. I mean, they just got rid of Austin Barnes and Chris Taylor, just fired them and said, good luck. Two of the longest tenured Dodgers. They just released them unceremoniously, cleaned out their lockers, and still protesting the Dodgers because they brought the Boston Red Sox, for people who were in Fenway, they honored one of the hostages from Gaza who was freed by allowing him to come to Fenway Park and throw out the first pitch for Jewish Heritage Night this week. What's that?
Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry. As a hostage. Okay. Never mind. Sorry.
Right. So I'm saying that the Boston Red Sox honored the Israeli hostage by allowing him to throw out the first pitch for Jewish Heritage Night in Boston for the game the other night. The Dodgers refused to have a Jewish Heritage Night, let alone a hostage throw out a first pitch. They used to have a Jewish Heritage Night, and they banned it when things got ugly like 2 years ago, and they refused to have a Jewish Heritage Night. They have 25 other ethnic heritage nights other than Jewish Heritage Night now at Dodger Stadium. Tip of the hat to the Red Sox for having the courage to bring this hostage out to celebrate his freedom by throwing out the first pitch on Jewish Heritage Night at the legendary Fenway Park in Boston, with the pesky pole down the right field line that people in Fenway know about, and the 2-beer limit at Fenway that we used to spin around and put our hats on backwards to get 2 more beers 5 seconds later. But a great stadium, a great baseball culture, and go Red Sox. That's all I could say.
All right, I wanted to share this. I thought that was pretty amusing. You mentioned Gavin Newsom earlier, or somebody did, and Adam Carolla made an observation about progressives and their stances. So you know how you can't always see people's pronouns in their profile when they're out in public. So another cheat code, as I've said, is if they're wearing a mask, okay, you know who they are. Thank you for identifying. But he's come up with a more subtle way that you can tell what you're dealing with as well.
All progressive guys cross their legs like women. What they do, literally, it's a sign. It's I cross my legs. As I cross my leg, it'll hike up my top leg, pant leg, and it'll expose my colorful sock.
Weird.
And then you'll know where I'm at. By the way, you can watch them all. Watch Gavin Newsom. Watch them all. Watch them how they cross their legs, and then watch how Trump crosses his legs. He doesn't cross legs. He holds his legs wide open.
He puts a diamond in front of his testicles.
Right.
He sits like this every time.
So there's Trump with the diamond. His diamond, which accentuates his nutsack. And then you have Justin Trudeau signaling, I have no balls. I have no balls. I will sit in this position for 4 hours, cut off the circulation of my nutsack because I do not have balls, but I have colorful socks, so you know where I'm at. Ladies, gay community, you know where I stand. Look at my socks and watch me cross my legs like a chick. All progressive.
Brilliant, brilliant observation. That's a studio that is owned by Adam Carolla. It's the Adam and Dr. Drew show, which is still ongoing. He keeps his cars in there. He's got his sports cars in this garage, and within the garage in Burbank, there's a sound booth in there where they do the board. I've done the show there with Dr. Drew myself, but he's built a sound stage, a broadcast booth within his car garage that he keeps all his race cars in. And the best part, it's got free vending machines. You can just keep pushing the buttons all day and getting everything out and stuffing them in your pockets. Full vending machines for free. Push the buttons at Carolla's garage.
Well, nice. In his collection, he has the Paul Newman cars.
That's right. That's why I mentioned. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. He did a documentary, I think, on Paul Newman as a racer. Yeah. And
unfortunately, though, I guess the Paul Newman cars, because there was damage that was done with the fires and everything. But the Paul Newman cars, I think, are at a museum right now as a display, so they're safe. But yeah,
well,
he's a racer himself.
Yeah, he is. He is. The PCH is opening up this weekend. There should be pure chaos in Malibu. Karen Bass went to Lucky's, which is a popular restaurant in Malibu, Wednesday night. The people were stunned to see her in there. They started screaming at her. The customers, one man was beaten down by her security as he was screaming the whole night. And she sat there not responding to anyone, just eating a steak with that Joker smirk on her face. And one guy had lost 3 homes, and he just lost his shit and just couldn't take it anymore. Had to be repelled by security. It was just a shocking event that these people who were eating there couldn't believe the chutzpah of this woman showing up in Malibu.
Oh, she gives off every vibe of a tin pot dictator, in my opinion.
You got to see her security force.
Man, but her expressions. I mean, she has that dead stare, just you're so irrelevant. Like she could shut you out. It is.
Well, I wonder where she could have
watching.
learned that after 32 visits to communist Cuba, multiple visits with Fidel Castro. I know this sounds shocking, but a member of the Black Panther Party was part of a gun running campaign, according to the FBI, to get guns to the Cuban dictatorship, and was part of a program to quote unquote build homes in Cuba while she was at UCLA when she was going to college and later when she got out. This is a chick who worships Fidel Castro.
Yeah, she could probably hang out with oh God, the other one who worships Mao. I bet they're tight.
Oh yeah, yeah, that would be a good combination. There's a bunch of them scattered through the government. They're kind of like sleeper cells, Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to head over to locals where we can speak about all the chicanery with our people who are supporting us directly, even though you can be a member there for free.
I mean, it's better if you comment on stuff if you're a free member.
No.
Okay. I just somebody asked me that. Okay. Somebody asked me that. But
Yeah.
to become a member, is it like $100 a month?
No.
Is it $50 a month?
No, it's not even.
Okay, let me ask you something.
It's not even $100 a year.
Is it $20 a month?
Absolutely not.
Okay, let me get to the bottom line. Is it $7 a month?
No.
Oh, it's less than $7. Okay. Is it $5 a month? Let me just get to the lowest.
It's slightly more. It's about a cup of coffee a month.
Okay,
Starbucks. So it's $70 a year. It's $70 a year.
$70 divided by 12.
Yes, it's like $5.60 or something. I forget.
$5.60 a month. Now nobody can afford $5.60 a month. You're saying?
Apparently. But I understand there are fixed incomes, things like that. But in general, if you're not on a fixed income, things like that, and you really enjoy it, does help us out. And let me see, it's $583,333,333. So
okay,
under
so you can round. You
month.
can round to under $6 a month.
Yeah, which is
And
probably
you
a
get,
cup
what
of
do you
coffee.
get? You get secret documents. You get PDFs of rare books, JFK documents. You get the audio drama of Oswald and soon to be LBJ. I mean, there's a lot of crap over there from what the last time I looked.
And good stuff too.
I mean, when I say crap, I mean good stuff too.
I know that, but yes,
half it's my stuff. So what the fuck?
But you know what? I'll tell you what. We do offer a lot, and we offer a lot for free. But you can be a free member and then go look, and you'll say, "Oh, I want to check this out." And the things that are secret, you'll say, "Oh, I am missing on these," and you could determine, "Hey, let me upgrade my membership so I could look at these."
You know what also happened 2 months ago? 2 months ago to this day, I think we got our last subscriber for YouTube for the channel. And I don't know if it's
actually we just crossed 127,000 yesterday.
Okay, 127,000. 27,000 of it has been the last 2 years. 100,000 was the first year. The fact that nobody can bother to even subscribe to the channel is both depressing and annoying. I don't even know if there's a word for that, combining the two feelings into one word. The button there, if you could think about subscribing, don't do it. But I mean, just think about it. Meet with your family tonight. Talk about it over dinner. Shall we subscribe as a family to America's Untold Stories? We love the show. We pay absolutely nothing for it. These boys live in abject poverty. They don't even have pants. They don't even have homes. They have to put this show on for no money. Why don't we discuss this at night as a family and see if we, all of us, are 17 in your family, 5, some people have 11, the Catholic ones, sometimes 22. If we could subscribe individually from one home, I think you could do that with various machines that people have, phones, computers, school, car. This one guy drives around the country, Eric, right? Goes to various motels, hooks up and subscribes wherever he goes. I'm not sure just how complicated it is to subscribe. Eric knows a lot more about tech than I do, but from what I understand, you could basically push a button to subscribe. Where is that button, Eric? Where do you
or
push
follow on Rumble? It's right below
on Rumble. But where is the button that they talk about that you could?
It's a magic button. It says subscribe. It's down under the video.
You're saying the word is actually on the button. It's not just a button.
Correct.
And, all right. What
Or
if they
follow
don't speak
in the case of Rome?
Right. And what if they don't speak English? How is there a translation?
It's red.
It's red. Okay.
If it's red, that means it needs to be pressed. If it's dark, that means it's already pressed and you're good to go.
Is that true? And then you could push the bell, right, for notifications. Because a lot of these people do not realize that the show is exactly the same time twice a week and has never varied. And yet they're confused because they haven't gotten a notification from Big Brother to come on at 5:30 Eastern time on Tuesdays and Fridays to see a show that has never changed their time slot in 3 years. But if you push the notification bell, I think that helps YouTube.
It helps, but unfortunately, it's not guaranteed because YouTube doesn't do it. But you know what does guarantee you'll be told, hey, the show's going on today? If you're a member on Locals, free or paid,
I didn't know that.
You get an email every time that the show's coming up. So
Is that
you'll
true?
know. Yeah, it goes out. I send it out every Tuesday and Friday.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, it's complicated because the show is exactly the same time, the exact same 2 days of the week. So if I'm not notified, I wouldn't know it was even going on.
I know. I have a tough time getting him to show up.
Yeah, no, a lot of time, too, especially in Hawaii. The show was at 11:30 in the morning. I was completely off my game. I mean, Honolulu is one of the noisiest cities I've ever been in, and I've been in New York. Honolulu is a loud city. I don't know what they're yelling about or honking, but there's supposed to be a leftist socialist environment there. The tribal people have not gotten the message because they are a loud, primitive group of people who love to use the horns on their car.
Wow, amazing.
By the way, we're supposed to have this thing on Tuesday. I'm going to have to push it back because I had a vacation and I haven't finished my research on William Harvey so unfortunately, I need another week to the following Tuesday to do the deep dive on William Harvey. I've got another book coming that I haven't received yet that I want to see. There's some tidbits in that book that I think are important to the show. So I guess we'll do news on Tuesday.
Odds are pretty heavy that there'll still be news to cover.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. And then I'll do it the following Tuesday, I think, which is like June 3rd or something. I'm not really, whatever that date is.
All right. Well, on that note, we're going to head over to Locals right now and hope to see some of you. There's 278 people right now waiting in the chat.
On Locals?
Yep, its own private chat, 279.
So these people could be involved in this private chat where we could say whatever the hell we want without censorship. That's interesting.
And half the chat is trashing me, so you'll have fun.
Right. What does he say, Mark Halpern? He says, love, peace, and
no talking, no smack in the chat.
No smack in the chat. He said he's going to get merch that says that. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, he probably should. He repeats it every damn day. So
yeah.
Good on him.
All right.
All right. We'll see everybody there.